A Gallup poll conducted in 2015 reported that 75% of the US population identified as Christian. Christianity stands as the largest of the five major religions and is the most historically influential in American politics and socioeconomics. Every single president of the United States is identified as Christian. Only Abraham Lincoln's religious beliefs are considered ambiguous. Now, I'm not here to display exactly what Christian means in the broad context of the 75% in the US, which is probably high today, but this does show how many Christians are in the US. As such a huge population in the world and the United States, they want to be entertained too. Unfortunately, the explicitly faith-based mainstream films are not exactly the best, but that's no problem. We got action, adventure, sci-fi, superhero, drama, melodrama, westerns, war, comedy, romantic comedy, musical, thriller, fantasy, romance, and, unless one has rather strict fundamentalist opposition to seeing such suggestive content on screen, they're patronizing these films just as any other. But I always seem to find that the horror genre, particularly supernatural horror, is unnerving to Christians. But why? Is it the violence? Superman and the Avengers can level entire cities, but there's no protest. The Passion of the Christ is explicitly gory. Roger Ebert even claimed, "This is the most violent film I've ever seen." In his review, he gave it, a perfect 4 out of 4 stars, though. And on a $30 million budget, the film grossed $611 million worldwide. It's one of the most successful foreign language and R-rated films of all time. So, it's not the violence. What about the monsters, evil spirits, demons? Is it just because the demonic reality is just too real? Well, I don't think this argument holds up. The scriptures are filled with angels, demons, behemoths, leviathan spirits, many of which possess people and Jesus himself exorcises. So, theologically speaking, I don't think that argument carries too much weight. If they can enjoy, 007 beating up this huge monstrosity of a guy, or Jean Valjean's musical soliloquies that bend reality, then why not appreciate a genre that's portraying an aspect, as Christians believe, of real life? Of course, not all horror films are created equally, or are portraying a good message, or really are even good. In fact, most are garbage. But there are some you'd be remiss not to see, and there's a lot that are worth your time. But I'll use 2 of the most popular horror films as an example. Number 1, The Exorcist. Yeah. It's a movie where a girl becomes possessed, projectile vomits, turns her head around, and does 1,000 other shocking things. This movie has all the outer forms for the terrifying world of a horror movie, but too often are its inner forms simply overlooked or disregarded. It's a film about a priest struggling with his purpose in life. His frail mother dies, his faith is but a shell of what it used to be, but when a frantic mother of a possessed child pleads for his help, he reluctantly agrees. When all medical professionals agree that nothing is physically wrong with the girl, 2 priests are granted permission by the church to perform an exorcism. The girl, Regan, is somewhere inside this insidious creature, and I won't give the ending away in case you haven't seen it, but it is a film with masterful writing and cinematography, performances, and it's just so beautifully brought to life by director William Friedkin. But at its heart, this film negotiates the tension of belief. Is Regan really possessed, or is it a game for attention? In other words, the film asks the audience, is this idea of faith an honest plea or a game we use to keep ourselves busy? And the sacrifice that these priests make, is it an action done out of true faith? Yes. It's not a day job requirement or a nominal Christian's everyday activity. The tension of secular versus spiritual life, action versus non-action, and faith versus fear is an integral element to a Christian's life. Now, the film is incredibly graphic, and the demon-possessed Regan does some rather disturbing things. But if you can handle Passion of the Christ, you want to be entertained, and you like movies of quality, The Exorcist is a film you need to watch. Similarly, 2013's The Conjuring. Now, I won't comment on its plethora of sequels, prequels, and spin-offs, which seem to be the norm with any successful franchise these days. However, this film is a sight to behold amidst many abysmal franchises. The focus on the character development of Ed and Lorraine Warren brings this supernatural ghost hunting story into a different atmosphere than Paranormal Activity, Ouija, Hellraiser, anything with the name Amityville in it, and basically all Halloween sequels and so on and so forth. But why? Why watch this film? Well, I think it's because it boils down to one solid fact. This film doesn't treat its audience like children. There's developed characters, there's clear motivations, the scares aren't ill-deserved or cheaply delivered with a sound effect. We aren't handed out the plot by the protagonist spitting out exposition. The characters don't get set upon by evil forces because some bored demon just thought, today's the day. No, the forces of evil and good are seriously discussed, forcing Ed and Lorraine to weigh the cost of the physical and psychological toll that fighting these supernatural entities demands. And they have to ask themselves, is it really worth it to help this poor family whose daughter's possessed? Here again is the element of sacrifice, putting your life on the line for the other. The forces of evil do not and cannot understand the elements of grace and faith and mercy and love that those decisions demand. So this film asks us, is it worth helping those people? They might be helpless, childish, or even demon-like, but in a world of tragedies, we need the people who help for reasons beyond reciprocity, money, or even justice. These themes are evident in these films, as well as many other supernatural horror films. Exorcism of Emily Rose, Conjuring 2, A Quiet Place. And so, if you have ever been on the fence about these types of movies, I would suggest these films. It's not right to judge a book by its cover, a movie by its poster, or a genre by its outliers. See for yourself if this is something worth watching. If not, I completely get it. It's just not some people's cup of tea. For instance, I really hate modern country music. It's just terrible. But I would be definitely missing out if I never listened to the great country stars of the past just because of my dislike for modern country music. So, in closing, just give it a shot, try it out, and know that there's more under the surface than just jump scares and visceral imagery. There's a message of hope.